Welcome to Knicks Home Court with your host, Greg Armstrong. Knicks run the Olympics. The world is catching up to the NBA. And tell me, why does everybody hate Carmelo? Coming up on Knicks Home Court. Music brought to you by bensound.com. All right, now let's get into the Knicks news of the week. Knicks news of the week. It's Knicks home court. I said the Knicks run the Olympics. Well, not really, but kinda. First of all, Melo's just been going off, breaking every Olympic record. You know, gotta give him props for that. Regardless of how small an achievement some people might believe it is, it's still an achievement, still a good achievement. There's nothing negative you could say about it. But I really want to talk about the Cougs scoring 23 points against Argentina. And then recently, today, scoring 17 points versus Spain. But Spain crushed them. I'm talking about crushed them. I'm talking about destroyed them. It's crazy. It's like Spain said, all right, let me stop playing because we're about to get eliminated. Let us stop playing. And they crushed them. But Kuz had 17 points. It's Kuzminskas. Yeah, I'm butchering his name. You see why I call him Kuz. But he had 17 points. He had 23 against Argentina. You know, he seems like a good player. You know, it seems like a good pickup. He's playing against good competition right now, so you can kind of judge him on that. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, when he gets on the Knicks and the Knicks scheme and the NBA teams is different. So I'm not expecting him to come in there and score 23 points. And if he can score 8 points a game, 9 points a game, be a threat, help spread the floor, that's all we asking for from him. You know, and Billy Hernan Gomez. Spelt Willie, pronounced Billy. He had 11 points in 16 minutes in his last game against Nigeria. So, you know, the Knicks are doing well. We're faring well in the Olympics. It's funny, you know, when you're a Knicks fan, when you're not even talking about USA, you're just saying, well, the Knicks, Carmelo and Kuz and Herman Gomez, you know, we all can't wait for the NBA season to start. Let's be real. But, you know, the Knicks are holding their own in the Olympics, and it's good to see. Especially for those like me who are starving for NBA basketball. It's the closest thing we can get to it. That's all that's really happening in Knick land. There's nothing really else going on. So, I'm going to move on to the NBA news of the week. NBA news of the week. Well, not all the news. The NBA schedule came out. You know, I won't even get all into it. Some people break it down. Which games are important, which games not are important. I think that's all ridiculous because until the games start to get played, we don't know which ones are important. You know, I mean, we might say, like a lot of people say, oh, OKC versus Golden State. That may not be important. Who knows how good OKC might be? We know Golden State will be good. You know, to me, important games is games that shape the division and the conference. Not games like Knicks at Chicago. Derrick Rose, you know, that's drama. You know, like, don't get mixed up between drama and what might be interesting as far as the drama. Like the first time Kevin Durant and Westbrook crossed paths on the basketball court. That's drama. You know, let's not get that mixed up to what's important as far as the important games in the NBA. But anyway, you know, I'll just mention a few with the Knicks. The Knicks have they open up against Cleveland. I'm like, why y'all gonna do that? But it's all right. They open up against Cleveland, which, like I said, that to me is not really, is notable, but it's not really an important game in the realm of things. If you really think about it, the Knicks have a back-to-back in November that I think like I said, it's too early in the season to say so important, but it's a good measuring stick game. And these against teams you're going to play a lot. We have Boston November 11th, and we have Toronto November 12th. So that's a good, nice little back-to-back test for the Knicks. Other than that, I don't really get all into the schedule and things like that. In the NBA, it's been a struggle in the last couple of games in the Olympics for the NBA, for the NBA stars, for the NBA team select. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this team may not be that good. First of all, they had a lot of defections. A lot of players didn't play this year. But it's not even that. The league, the world is catching up. There's a lot of foreign-born NBA players. That dream team was awesome. The first dream team was awesome. Legendary players. But how many players were in the NBA back then? Let's be real. How many players they played against? How many of them teams had NBA players? I mean, just for example, Australia has 6 NBA players. Spain has NBA Hall of Famers on, or a Hall of Famer on the team. Argentina has Ginobili, Hall of Famer. I mean, that didn't happen back in the days. Watch when Canada comes up. They got Andrew Wiggins. They got Anthony Bennett. I'm joking. He is from Canada, but I'm joking. They got Ben Simmons. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Ben Simmons is actually from Australia. So he might play for Australia. So imagine that. They could have had him too. So, I mean, the world is getting better at this game of basketball. As the game of basketball becomes loved, don't be surprised in the future, in the near future, maybe 8 years from now, other teams with 3 or 4 All-Stars on them competing, having a chance to knock off the NBA. So I didn't like the NBA players going to the Olympics, but it's gonna get better as time goes on, because it's gonna be teams with all-stars and because I think that Ben Simmons is gonna be an all-star. He's gonna be on Australia. Zach LaVine. Is it Zach LaVine? I know I'm getting the name wrong. The guy from Utah that got hurt. Zach LaVine, I believe he's on Minnesota, so I might be getting that wrong. Sorry about that, folks. I don't really follow Utah, but the point guard from Utah that got hurt, he's going to be on the Australia team. So the world is catching up to the league. That's all that is. Let's be real. So they're going to expect some challenges. I do think this year the NBA is not going to lose a game. The U.S. men's team will not lose a game this year. Mark it down. They might be closer, but they're not going to lose a game. Trust me. But again, the league is the world is. I keep saying the league. The world is catching up. I want to send a shout out. If he hears it, if he doesn't, it's all good. Congratulations to J.R. Smith. He got married. Got married this weekend. Big congrats. It's good to see the brother growing up. Becoming more mature and things like that. I like what he said. He said his second ring this year. So that's cool. That's good for him. Sometimes that's needed for a person to become more grounded. He don't need to. Maybe a couple of years in Cleveland made him put things in perspective, because ain't no nightlife there. Yeah. I know that's a dig. And also, the Miami Heat won't use the stretch provision on Chris Bosh, which means there's actually a chance that he might come back to the NBA this year, which I'm hoping that he does. I'm really wishing the best for him. He's a good guy. We make fun of him because he provides us with plenty of memes with the faces and stuff he makes, but I really, really would love to see him back on the NBA court, playing well, playing like the Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer he should be, and I'm really rooting for him. Life over everything. That's how I look at it. Life over sports. And first, we're going to make sure he's healthy enough to play. And if he is, I hope he can be the same player he was when he left. Now, when I say NBA news, I just want to clarify this. I'm not going to cover the entire NBA. I just like to pick and choose things that I find to be interesting and things like that. And that's just how I'm always going to do it. I'm not going to go through all the news because this is Knicks' home court. But I like to cover a little bit of NBA news as well. And with that being said, that concludes the NBA news of the week. We're going to move on to topics of the week. Oh boy. The topic is Carmelo Anthony. The topic of the week. Carmelo Anthony. Why do people hate him? I mean, that's what I gotta call it. Hate. Because, like, he's a good guy. He's never been in any trouble. But yet and still, he gets judged unfairly. Or, I mean, even before he's with the Knicks, he's been judged unfairly. So let's run through some of the reasons why they may hate him. And let me just go through them. Because when he was young, he had a Warner Brother tattoo. Which, let me explain that. Not Warner Brother, the movie. It was a WB, but it's Warner Brother. He was on a video with some known thugs, I guess. And he was saying, he had the tattoo, the Warner Brother, in case the cops are coming. Now, remember, he grew up in Baltimore. Now, it's so funny that he grew up in Baltimore, born in New York, moved out to Baltimore later on in life, about 6, 7 years old. And he got this tattoo called Warner Brother, and it means Warner Brother if the cops are coming, right? Now, it's funny, though, because I'm looking at this tattoo, and I'm like, yeah, that seems like some criminal element. But now we're learning about the Baltimore PD. The Department of Justice put out a report that these guys are completely violating people's civil rights, left and right, strip searching people. I mean, this is the Department of Justice saying this. You can find it. It's not hard to find. If you put DOJ report on Baltimore Police Department, you'll find it. So I'm not going to go all into it, but they were doing a lot of crazy things. So could he mean Warner Brother in case of the corrupt cops? I don't know. Could he be saying that? Or could he be saying Warner Brother who's hustling on the corner selling drugs? Now, I don't know too many of Carmelo friends that got mad time in jail. So I'm not going to say which one it is. I'm not even going to do deduction on that. But I can think of my childhood, and I can remember when I was young. And it's so funny is that every black person has a story when it comes to the cops. We've always looked at them a certain way. And not as enemies, but just like, make sure you're clean. I mean, I swear from the age, 16 to like 22, I got searched every day on my way to school and then on my way to work when I got a job. It's just what it was. And we made games about it. Oh, shit, here you come. That's things like that. So, I don't know. But they might hate him because he had this tattoo. Meaning, and he had the braids and, like he had some kind of thug element when all he was doing was playing basketball. It's amazing how they call people who play sports thugs when they're far from it. But anyway, I digress. Let me move on to the next thing. They hate Carmelo because he shoots a lot. 22,000 points later, he doesn't just shoot a lot, he's unstoppable. Plain and simple, Carmelo Anthony is unstoppable. One of the most unstoppable offensive forces in the NBA. He shoots the three, he shoots the mid-range, he scores in the paint, he can post you up. Come on, man. His arsenal is incredible. The league hasn't seen an arsenal like his in many, and people say Kevin Durant's a better offensive player. No, not necessarily. Kevin Durant can score more points. Yes, he's more efficient. I'll give him that because he shoots more threes. He's a great shooter. Probably a better shooter than Melo. But he does not have the package that Melo has. And say what you want to say, but Melo's post game is elite. His jab step game is elite. His three-point shooting can be elite. It's not always elite, but for the most part, it can be elite. He can go to the rack. Now, he's lost some athleticism, so his finishing game is not elite as when he was young, but it's still very good. Every part of the offensive game, he's very good to elite. Shooting threes, posting up, mid-range, jab step, pump fakes, rebounds, putbacks. Melo does all of that. Now, let's do a little comparison. They hate Melo but love Bernard King, right? A lot of people love Bernard King. Bernard King was a scorer. He averaged about 5 rebounds a game to Melo's 7 to 8, right? Now let's think of the Bernard King, Larry Bird. Larry Bird is a great player. He's better than Melo. Yes, he's still better than Melo at this point. This man, for his career, averaged about 6 assists a game, about 9 rebounds, and like 22 points. And that's because he had injuries at the end of his career. All right? Even though Melo passed him in scoring, I still think Larry Bird's a better player. However, would even Bernard King have more assists if they played with better players? I mean, let's be real. And everybody acts like that's not part of the game. But when they can gang up on one player, I mean, Larry Bird had Kevin McHale, Hall of Famer. Robert Parrish, Hall of Famer. Dennis Johnson, Hall of Famer. Let's be real. He had a super team. Let's be real. But I digress on that. I'm not going to go all in. I'm not trying to disparage Larry Bird. What I'm trying to do is make a comparison. That's why a player as great as Bernard King could not get anywhere. He was scoring 60 points. He was trying to carry his team, but he couldn't do it because he didn't have the players around him. Now let's look at another small forward who's in the Hall of Fame. James Worthy. Great player. But he had Magic. He had Kareem. He had Jamal Wilkes, and then he had Byron Scott. He had they even had, the Lakers were so good, they had Michael Thompson off the bench, who was a former number 1 pick. And damn near a star in the league. He was a role player on their team. Michael Cooper. They had a super team. He only averaged about 17 to 19 points a game. We knew how good he really was. But he's considered one of the greatest small forwards of all time. But look at the team he had around him. That's all I'm saying. So Melo's hated because he's a scorer, but the teams he's been on, he's had to do the scoring. He's had to carry the load. I mean, I'm going to get on Melo when he was on the Denver Nuggets, but a lot of years, he averaged 25, 26 points, 28 points a game. The next scorer was like at 13. Now, if you look at any championship team, you normally have a guy maybe at 25, another guy at 19, another guy at 17, things like that. Why do people hate Melo? Because he hasn't been past the first round only 2 times. He made the playoffs 10 straight years with the Nuggets. He only got past the first round 1 time with the Nuggets and 1 time with the Knicks. Now, let's really look at this and I'm going to kill this bullshit once and for all. First of all, in all of those games, in all of those playoffs, Melo has balled. And that's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for is a great performance from your great player, and maybe the team wasn't good enough. It's not like he choked in those games. Now, let me break it down. Actually, no. I'm going to pause that because I want to get on to some bullshit that I heard Stephen A. Smith saying, screaming, because Melo said he'd be satisfied with his career as is with 3 gold medals and a college championship with over 22,000 points in the NBA. Now, he didn't say he was going to give up. He didn't say he wasn't going to keep trying to win an NBA championship. He just said, listen, it is what it is. I'm pretty happy with my life. I'm good. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to be depressed. I gave it my all, and it didn't happen. That doesn't mean he's going to give up. That doesn't mean he's not going to keep balling out. That doesn't mean he's not going to go all out this year. He's just saying if by a chance I don't win in the NBA, I'm good. I don't see anything wrong with that statement. Y'all gonna turn Carmelo Anthony into Marshawn Lynch soon. It's gonna be crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing. Stephen A goes off on him. How could you say this? And oh my God, he's such a fucking gas bag. Stephen A. Smith is a gas bag. He says some of the craziest, not even crazy, just really kind of stupid. I'm gonna be honest. So Melo, you know he didn't like it. He responded with a little Instagram message with LeBron supposedly holding him back from saying things that he wants to say. Melo, don't even stress it, because the majority of people got your back. Trust me. You see all them 7 jerseys in the Garden. So now let me get back to what I was going to say about him being eliminated in the first round, or only being out of the first round 2 times. Let me run down. I actually took the time because I want to squash this once and for all. In 2002, 2003, 2002, 2003, let me show you the team that Denver Nuggets had. They sucked, no doubt. Now, I love basketballreference.com. They got a lot of stuff you can look at. All right. Now, we're going to look at Denver Nuggets roster, or better yet, not even Denver Nuggets roster. In 2002, 2003, Denver Nuggets won 17 games. You feel me? They won 17 games. That's the year they drafted Carmelo Anthony. The very next year, they won 44 games after they drafted Carmelo Anthony. Now, and that was the 2003-2004 season. Let me tell you who was on that roster in 2004, 2003, 2004 that they made it to the playoffs with, in some of the averages. Melo was 19 years old. It was Carmelo, and that year, Carmelo Anthony averaged 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. The next scorer on his team was Andre Miller. He was 27. He still was balling at the time. He averaged 14. And then we had another player, Vashawn Leonard. Remember him? He averaged 14. And Hilario. That was their main players that won 44 games in the Western Conference. This is when the Western Conference was full of juggernauts. They won 44 games. They lost in the first round to Minnesota Timberwolves when Kevin Garnett was on that team. That team went to the conference finals and, of course, lost to the eventual champions. Let's go to 2004, 2005. They made the playoffs again with Carmelo Anthony as their leader. They lost in the first round to the San Antonio Spurs, the eventual champions of the league. Yes. Let's go to 2005-2006. They made the playoffs. They lost to the second seed, the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, people say, oh, God, they lost to the Clippers. Now, let's look at the Clippers roster. The Clippers had Elton Brand, who that year may have had an MVP-type season. Sam Cassell, Cuttino Mobley, Corey Maggette, Sean Livingston. They had a decent team back then. This was a good team. They got 17 points a game and 6 assists from Sam Cassell, 14 points a game from Cuttino Mobley, 11 points a game from Chris Kaman, and he was only 23. And Elton Brand gave them 24, 10, and 10 rebounds a game. They lost to a better team. There's no doubt about that. Now let's move on. 2006, 2007. They lost to the Spurs,
who won the championship that year. In the first round, they lost to the Spurs, who eventually won the championship. Now, let's just stop right there. They lost to Minnesota, who went to the conference finals. They lost to the Spurs, who won the championships. Who won the championship that year. They lost to the Clippers, who were the second seed, who had a far better roster than they did. Then they lost to the Spurs, who won the championship. Okay? Now let's go to 2007, 2008. That year, the Denver Nuggets won 50 games. They won 50 games in 2007, 2008. They were the 8th seed in the Western Conference. You heard me. They were the freaking 8th seed in the Western Conference. They lost to the number 1 seed, Los Angeles Lakers. That was the year that Boston beat the Lakers in the finals. They lost to the Lakers again, who went to the NBA Finals that year. And they were the 8th seed with 50 victories. Okay? Now let's move on again. They lost again. Now this year, the next time, they got Chauncey Billups. In 2008, 2009, they got Chauncey Billups. And they finally got a player that fits the mold with Melo. And they went to the conference championship, the conference finals, and they lost to the Lakers. That year, the Lakers won the championship. Okay? And in 2009, 2010, they lost to Utah. And that was a Utah team with, matter of fact, let me look that up. That's when Darren Williams was on the level with Chris Paul. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember Darren Williams was on the level with Chris Paul? Let's look at their roster. They had Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer, Paul Millsap, Wesley Matthews. They had a very, very good team. They had a solid team. They lost to a better team that year. Now, that just covers, and by the way, then he came to the Knicks halfway through the next season, and they lost in the first round to Boston. And remember, that was a year that dumbass Stoudemire got hurt. And when Melo went off for, 42 points and 17 rebounds, some shit like that. And they lost to a better Boston team who eventually lost to the Miami Juggernaut. Then they got to the second round when they won 54 games and they lost to Indiana. Now, that was the one victory that I believe they should have had. They should have beat Indiana that year. They didn't beat them. You know, I'm not going to put the blame. A lot of people want to blame J.R. Smith and things like that. I'm not going to do that. I think they should have beat that team. But let's look at it. Now, of all the teams, all the times he was in Denver, he lost to Spurs, Lakers. He lost to 3 teams who won a championship, right? He lost to a team who went to the championship but lost in the championship. He lost to a team that went to the conference finals. And he lost to the Clippers, who had a better team, and Utah had a better team. Now, people are saying I'm making excuses, but, I mean, Carmelo has had the worst luck in the world. Really. Seriously. Now, I wanted to go through LeBron James' journey, being in the Eastern Conference, but I didn't do that because I just didn't have the time to do it. I'm not going to disparage LeBron James. I think he's a super duper great player, but we know during the time Carmelo was in the West was ridiculous. When you can win 50 games and be an 8th seed, come on. So all I'm saying is get the off Carmelo's back. Dude is nice, first ballot Hall of Famer, great player. He has never had, it's almost like the Patrick Ewing syndrome. And now I feel like he's following the same road as Patrick Ewing because now they've finally put some really good players around him. And if they're healthy, they're going to make some serious noise. They're going to make some serious noise this year. I really believe it. If they're healthy. You know, I mean, it's a shame that they're getting Melo at 32 with this team. But if they're healthy, they're going to make some serious noise. Melo finally has some players around him that's used to winning, that know what to do, in crunch time. So that's all I got to say on the matter. Get off the man's back. Because when you examine, this is why I always tell people, stats can lie. Stats don't lie, but people know how to manipulate stats. So if you just hear people say, they're going to say, oh, Melo's only been out of the first round 2 times and only 1 time with Denver. That's true. But let's take a closer look. Let's go deeper into the situation. He took a team that had 17 wins and they won 44 wins. I mean, I think that's probably unprecedented. 17 to 44. And every year after that, in a tough Western Conference, he was killing. And he's losing to champions who had far better teams. I mean, the Spurs had Duncan, Ginobili, Parker in his prime. You know, Minnesota had Kevin Garnett in his prime. Clippers had Elton Brand. Yeah, you laugh about Elton Brand. Elton Brand was nice. They had Sam Cassell. Mobley. These players were good, real good NBA players. The Spurs, again, I already told you who they had. The Lakers had Pau Gasol, Kobe, younger Kobe. Not young Kobe, but younger Kobe. You know, so, and the one time they gave him some of that, he had played with Iverson the year before. It wasn't really a great fit because Iverson's really a shooting guard. But when he got Chauncey, somebody to take the ball out of his hands and give him the ball in the right spots, he went to the conference finals. So get the hell off the man's back. He's a great player, and I'm looking forward to a great season from Carmelo. I'm enjoying him in the Olympics. And with that being said, that's going to bring us to the end of Knicks Home Court for this week. I'm going to bring you another one next week and every week after that. You can find me on YouTube at Knicks Home Court. You can find me on Twitter at Knicks Show. Actually, on Twitter on Knicks Show, I really don't put up too much Knicks stuff. What I do is I just post the videos of YouTube, the links to that, and the links to my SoundCloud account. You can find me on SoundCloud under Life Culture Sports. You're going to find the Knicks Home Court under that. With that being said, everybody have a good week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Try to stay cool. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to be under this AC. Peace.